It is exactly 10 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Open Research Office session. I'm Marshall Brooks. I'm one of the clinical research facilitators here at the CTSI, along with Alexis O'Brien. And today's session is titled Introduction to Qualtrics for Survey Design and Administration. And our presenter is Dr. Carol Van Zile Tamsen. If anyone has any questions during today's session, we're going to ask that you either unmute yourself or you can just type your question into the chat, and Alexis and I will read it out so that everyone can hear what the question was. Obviously, as you can see, this session is being recorded. If you know anyone that wants to view the session or if you yourself want to review it after, it will be posted to our YouTube channel at a later date. And with that, Dr. Carol, you can get started.
Thank you, Marshall. So as Marshall indicated, in today's session, I want to provide all of you an overview of the Qualtrics survey tool, which has been purchased through the Research Foundation, and anyone at UB can use to collect data. So I'm going to start with an overview on some PowerPoint slides, and then I'm going to navigate over into the system itself so that I can walk through some of the things that, some of the features that you can use as you're creating surveys or using it for forms or whatever the case may be. So let me share my screen. So I hope all of you can see that. And then I am just going to make my window, my view of all of you bigger so that I can see all of you as well. So today I just am going to go through some basics of Qualtrics, let you know how to access it and how to get started with it. And there will be some advanced options that you may want to explore further. And in that case, certainly we could meet offline, or I can direct you to other resources as well. So today I want to go over, why we would use Qualtrics, how to actually create your survey and start adding your items, how you can share the link with the potential respondents, and how to do this through an anonymous approach or a confidential approach where you would actually link people's names to the survey data, and go through the data export process as well as the online reports that are included. And then at the very end, I'll come back just to talk about some of those advanced features that you might be interested in exploring. So to get started, the tool will let you create surveys, invite your people to respond to surveys, develop reports, and download raw data. And for that reason, it makes it a great tool to use if you're doing social science research, or if you're doing program evaluation for research projects that have been externally funded. You can use it for registration forms, any type of need you have to collect information from people. This tool will help you do that. So I mentioned using it as a data collection form for things like event registration, and I have used it for event registration in the past. And I've also used it just as a general form to get feedback from people about particular programs or whatnot in our office. And really, there's minimal training that's required to get started. The user interface, once you see it and start working in it, it's really quite easy to navigate. So hopefully this session, for those of you who haven't used it, will be enough for you to go ahead and get started. So again, this is available for everyone to use free of charge. And the access link is simply sunybuffalo.qualtrics.com. And when you go ahead and log into that, then it will ask you for your UBIT credentials, and you would simply log in the way you would log into any other UB application. And you free of use, you can make as many surveys as you want and have as many respondents as you need. So through UB's license, we have 20 question types that are options for us. There are more, but they are not included in our particular license. So we can use multiple choice, multiple select, a matrix table question if we have multiple statements that we want them to rate based on the same rating scale. You can add form fields. You can use a slider item, which allows them to slide the little box to where they think that their rating would be. It does allow people to rank order particular topics within an item. And then you can do side-by-side questions where you have one set of questions on the left and a complementary set of questions on the right. And so there are some pretty complex question types that this tool will support. There are also several ways to distribute your surveys or forms when you create them. You can do targeted distribution where you would actually know, ahead of time who you want to send the survey or the form to. And you can use the internal mailing feature to send your invites to those people. And this approach will allow you to identify those respondents, but also it allows the system to know who responded and who did not, so that automatic reminders could be sent to those people if they haven't responded within a certain time frame. And another way you might want to send it out is simply getting a link that you want to email to a group of people. You don't care if you know who responded. You're not going to be sending specific reminders to people. And then you can just send a regular email with the link included. If you go take some extra steps, you could have an email generated that has a unique link for everybody if you wanted to track who they are. But that would be a few extra steps than simply getting an anonymous link and sharing that in your email. So once you've collected your data, there are some advanced reporting features within Qualtrics, but you can also easily export your raw data. And the formats that are supported are CSV, TSV, Excel, SPSS, XML, and there are a few others, but I think most of us probably use Excel and SPSS to export our data. And you can choose to select how you want those items to be represented in your data file. So for example, if you have a yes/no item where 1 is yes and 2 is no, you can simply download the quantitative data. So all you see would be 1s and 2s in that column in your data export. Or you can actually export the values instead so that you would see the words yes and no in that data field. If you are going to be using your data for quantitative analysis, you probably would want to go ahead and use the score, the 1 or the 2, rather than the yes or the no. When I use this tool for forms, I want to be able to quickly see information about people and whatever the reason for the form is. So I usually export the actual value so I can see the yes, no's and the like me, not like me, or whatever the scale is. I can actually see those words in my data file. So in addition to just being able to get one big file out, you can select different fields that you want to export. So you don't have to export everything, just those things that you care about. And you can select different subgroups if you want to download data for people with particular characteristics in your data set. There also is a way to see your results right in the tool. And basically, this is just a data dump where it shows you all of the responses. There will be charts that are created, plus you'll see tables with the percentages of people that said each particular or selected each particular rating for an item. And any items where you allow for text input, so open-ended items, it simply lists all of those in order of when people responded. So it doesn't do anything to organize them or try to add themes. It just spits them all out into your report. And then once you have this report, again, it's just a data dump. I don't know how useful it is. I don't use it because I don't think just spitting out all the data is that useful. But if you wanted just one big report, then you can export that as a Word file or as a PDF. And then you would be able to see all the data in there. And if you were making, trying to make a fancier report, you can export it in Word and you can add formatting and whatnot to that. And I guess the value there is you do get the charts. And if you wanted to just use the charts that Qualtrics creates, then if you download it as Word, you can, put those into any file that you choose to. So I will come back to the advanced features at the end. For now, I'm going to move over to the actual tool and start walking you through how you would create a survey and then manage all the steps in distributing that survey. So when you open the Qualtrics site, you're going to see this home page, which I don't particularly like. It's very cluttered. And if you've already created surveys, you're going to see those along the left-hand menu. And you can go in and edit these at any time. You can get responses out of old surveys. You can copy these. There are a number of things that you can do with past surveys. So I'm going to create a new project to show you how that works. So I'm just going to select this blue button at the bottom of that list. And so I'm going to create a survey. And then unfortunately, they put the Get Started button all the way over at the bottom right, but it's there, so we're going to create it. And I am just going to give this a name for the purposes of our demonstration. Now I'm going to create a blank survey project, which means I'm starting from scratch, but they do allow you to import if you had a different Qualtrics account, you can import surveys from that account. You can copy an existing survey and edit it for other purposes. You can even save surveys into your library and start from there. And I'll show you your library in a minute. So once I have this screen, I'm going to create the project. It will take a minute to spin, and then we get into the survey editor, which looks complex, but as we go through it, you'll see that it's not quite that bad. So in order to select a question type, and it always starts you out with a default question, and you can begin here or you can edit this, delete it, whatever you want to do. But you'll notice that this question is selected. So if you wanted to do any editing of an item, you need to make sure that that blue square is around the item. And this pane on the left side is going to change. Your options will change depending upon the question type that you select. So there are different options when you have multiple choice, single select versus multiple select. So I will start with simply beginning to edit this question. We'll go with our multiple choice. And when there's a round radial button in front of the choices, that means it's single select. So people can only select one answer. If those were squares, then they would be able to select multiple answers. And so to get started, I can just give my question, the question text. And you're going to have to excuse my typing because I always type bad when I'm in front of people. So I have added the question, and this is going to let me edit the entire question block, which I don't want to do. So I can move that out of my way if I don't want to see that. I can then somehow navigate back to see my question options. So basically I just clicked on it and it gave me my options. What they mean by a question block is if you have particular questions around one theme area. For example, you might have demographics and you want to know birth date, gender identity, all those things that you want to know about characteristics about your people, unit, department, project they're working on, whatever it is, you can add a block of all of those questions. And those questions will be grouped together in the survey, and they would respond to all of those within that theme. We can add a new block when we actually have the survey questions that we want to ask. And within those questions, if we have areas of sub-themes or areas of different kinds of questions in terms of the formatting of the item, then we could certainly group those into additional blocks as well. So what you notice is that I asked, are you interested in training? And then this use suggested choices was on. So it automatically started to populate my response options, which is nice. But I can click on that little arrow to get other options. So for example, I might want this to just be a yes/no item, in which case that would update it to be, and I don't know why I keep getting over to that block thing, I'm sorry. So you can select yes, no, worse, better, and you can see that the text over here changes with each thing that you select. So I will go with this one, definitely not, probably not, and so on. So now that I have my question in there, I can continue to edit it while I'm editing the survey, or I can add a new question. And so to do that, underneath that question block is add a new question. And so if I click on that, then I would select what kind of a question that I want to enter. And I'm going to now do another multiple choice. But I want this to be a multiple select. And so I would come back to the left pane and select allow multiple answers. So now that little button in front of the choices has changed to a square, and people, when they respond to this text or this question, could enter multiple responses. So for example, we might want to make this, what kind of training are you looking for? And then our options would be, survey design, research methods, quantitative data analysis, and we could continue to put in options. And then when respondents respond to this question, they can select as many as they want. Now, it also defaults to 3 choices or 3 things that people can select. So if you go back to the left pane, you see that 3 is what it defaults to. But if you want to give them more options, you simply add the plus, 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 and you can have as many options as you want. And then you can do this as a list. You could align it vertically or horizontally or as columns, whatever you prefer. I actually prefer things vertically. If you wanted to save space, you could do it in columns or horizontally. But essentially, that is how you would edit your items. Now, let's say that you actually wanted to make this an open-ended item where they simply tell you what training that they want. Then, unfortunately, you would have to go back and delete this question. And so you would click on delete, and then you could create a new question, copy that text, and then from the question type. Just select text entry, and then that would give them a box to simply type in. So I would say that the most common types of questions are single select or multiple select, multiple choice, text questions, and matrix questions. So I'm just going to show you what a matrix question looks like, and then I'll stop for questions. So again, we would want some sort of, big instruction about what we want people to do with the statements that we're going to list. And this is very generic. We might make this to indicate their experience with certain aspects of research. And then down here, we can put in those aspects that we want them to rate. So this might be quantitative method, study design, data collection options. And again, it defaulted to 3, but we could add more if we chose to. And we can, if we want, we can come over here and start adding our the choices on our rating scale, or we can turn on the suggested statements again from our left pane. And we might want to, instead of using something like disagree or disagree, we want to know their level of experience. And so if there's nothing here that, really represents what we want them to rate it against, we can actually type over there our own. I'm just going to put 4 to excellent for now. And then we have these scale points. It defaults at 3. But we can also add, so if you scroll down in that left pane, it lets you add more scale points if you choose. So typically we would do 5. And I'm just going to text in my own option, or type in my own options. And again, I'm just making these up. I'm not saying that these are good items for your rating scale.
While you're typing, there is one question in the chat.
Okay.
It says, can we write and then upload our own code for a UB Qualtrics survey? This could save time for some of the more tedious steps in the UI.
Yeah, so you can upload a survey. So when I was first creating the survey, there were those options, the drop-down options, either start one from scratch or upload content to create your survey. So yes, you can do that. The only thing is you would want to do a little bit of investigation about how that formatting of your existing survey looks, so that when you upload it in, it goes in appropriately. So that's very easy to do if you had your survey starting in an Excel file. Some of the other survey platforms just say that you've had a survey built somewhere else and then you want to just put it in here. Typically, you can spit out that whole survey as an Excel file with your question and your item options, and then pull that in as an Excel file, and Qualtrics would automatically format it the way you needed to format it. So yes, it would save time. And then again, if you had Qualtrics surveys in another instance of Qualtrics that you had, you could import those directly as they are, and they would automatically format and work in the same way. So I hope that answers your question. It is pretty efficient and helps you be more efficient by being able to bring existing survey materials right into Qualtrics and go from there.
And then one more question. If someone was using FormStack, how would that compare to Qualtrics?
So FormStack obviously is best for forms. So if you want people to register for something, it's a great way to do registration. You can do quick evaluations. So let's say you offered a workshop like this and you wanted a quick evaluation. You could build that in FormStack. The issue is that the data doesn't necessarily come out in as many formats as you need. You can get an Excel file, and it just isn't set up to handle data, as much data, and in as many formats as a survey tool like Qualtrics. And the reporting features are much more advanced. So in FormStack, you can create a dashboard that has charts that show you, this percentage of people said this, and that can be very helpful. We use that for registration for workshops, as I said, so we can see how many people are registered at any point in time. We collect some information about what department and unit they're from, so we can quickly scan that before the session and know where people are coming from, so we can tailor the workshop in certain ways for that audience. So FormStack does have a lot of uses, but I think if you're doing advanced data collection where you need a substantial data file with the capability to pull it out and put it into a statistical analysis program, then I think using something like Qualtrics is your better bet. I hope that makes sense.
And then would you be able to compare and contrast the advantages and disadvantages to using Qualtrics versus RedCap?
So I don't have a lot of experience with RedCap, and I see that Mary is on the call. She and I work together. She has the RedCap all set up, and it works very well for her. And it's great, but Qualtrics is also completely secure. And for me, I just like the interface better. I think, as far as exporting data, either tool is fine. As far as creating questions, RedCap has a good variety of question types you can use. But again, I like just the interface of Qualtrics. I think it's easier to work through. And I like the fact that you can see reports and build reports with a lot of customization within the tool, as well as get your raw data out. So anything else?
That is all for the questions in the chat for right now.
Okay, so we've added 3 questions. I will just add an open-ended question now, just so you can see what it looks like. Right, again, my typing in front of people is horrible. So what suggestions do you have for future trainings? And then you see that they have this box that they can type in. Now, psychologically, if you want people to feel like they have freedom to write as much as they need to, then you could select multiple lines, or you could do an essay size text box, which makes it even bigger. Or if you psychologically want people to think their responses should be limited, you could use a single line, and then the text would still wrap. You'd get everything they typed, but it implies that you don't want a long and drawn out answer. So that's just, it's based on your question and what kind of information you're looking for from that question. So this saves as you're going along, so you never need to worry about stopping to save. And at this point, let's say my survey is done. I want to preview what it looks like. And so it will format it both for a computer screen as well as for a mobile device. So you can see that it's not completely beautiful, but it does give it some formatting, and it's pretty easy for people to read and to respond appropriately based on how it formats it. And then it is pretty easy to do it on the phone as well. So then I would click the next button, and that was the end of my survey. So this is a canned response that you can't really change. Thank you for completing the survey. Your response has been recorded. So that was the preview. I've seen how it looks. I probably, if I were doing a survey for research, I'd want to respond to the survey items myself to make sure they're working the way that I want them to work. And you might also want to share the preview with someone else if they are working with you on the project, or you're creating a survey for someone and you want them to work through the survey and make sure it's correct. You can actually share the preview view by clicking on this button in the upper right-hand screen. And when you do, it provides you a link, and you can say whether you want to share it internally or publicly. And then if you select public, you would be able to share it with external collaborators. And this internal is just UB people themselves. And so you can save that and then share that link out to people so that they can see the survey and actually work through it on their own just to make sure it's correct. So let's say that we have completed our survey, it's been checked, it's ready to go. We would then go to the distribution window. So when we open that up, you can see there are a variety of ways that we could send out our survey to get our responses. So typically I would do an email where I'll just open this up. So I want to compose my email. So I can select contacts. So I'll show you in a minute how you put your contacts into the system so that it would automatically send the survey to a list of people. You can indicate when you want it to send. And I think this is very important, the from address. So that no reply is kind of like a hidden email that it comes from. That's the system's email. But I want the survey to go out under my name. So my name is listed. And if they have questions, I want them to respond directly to my email. If I wanted them to know it was from me, but I didn't want to flood my inbox with questions, I could just put a generic email or an assistance email in this field. And then anytime they hit reply to the survey invite, it would go to that email. So having a name that they would recognize in the from field, I think is important. It makes it more likely that they will complete the survey. But having a good reply to email so that the right people are getting any questions is also important. So then you would just create your subject line, and then you can actually save messages in your library as well. And so again, I'll show you the library and how you would save messages, surveys, and contacts. But you'll notice when the email is created, it automatically posts the link in here. And so we have to build our message around the link to make sure that the correct link is in there. And the other thing that's now a requirement, I think this is broader than UB, but definitely at UB, we have to give people an opt-out of future emails. And so there's this language at the very bottom in the small font that if they got this invite and they don't want to do the survey and they don't want to hear from you again, then there's a link that would take them to unsubscribe. That would take them out of your list so that they wouldn't continue to get emails from you. So the nice feature, and I haven't built a message yet, so these buttons are grayed out, But if I want to just test my email, I can send myself a preview email to make sure it's working correctly. And I usually do that just because I want to make sure that the link is in there appropriately, that Qualtrics didn't make a mistake, and that I can get to the survey and I can see the language of the invite message as it looks in my inbox and does it make sense. And then that's optional, but once you've done that, you can actually send the survey. And again, if you selected a time period up here, then this button will tell you, okay, I'm going to send it in 1 hour. Click on it, and then it will just run on its own. So when you have a survey that's in the field, I'm going to cancel this. What happens is you're actually going to see responses here. So it will list out your message, how many people responded to that, and then you can click in to get some details about who didn't respond, were there any bounce backs from email, and then if you added an automated reminder to that particular email invite, that would also be listed here. And it would show you the number of people that were sent the reminder, which hopefully is less than the original invite. So you get all of your analytics about your emails going out here. You can use a personal link. So with this, you can generate links for everybody in your contact list. And this would simply, you could put it in an email to your contacts, and then when they responded to this link through an email from your inbox, then you would know who they were. If you didn't care who they were, you can generate an anonymous link, and then that would be something you would copy into an invite from your inbox, and you would not be able to know who the people are who responded. And with much of our research, we want it to be anonymous, and so we would select that option.
So there's a question in the chat that says, do the emails with questions about the survey come to your Outlook email, or do they need to check the menu in Qualtrics for response questions?
No, they come to whatever email you put in that from name from email area. So if you didn't want it to go to your Ruby email and you're using some other email service, like I used iCloud, then I could put my iCloud email in there and those would go there. So I hope that you can put any email in there that you want to put in there. And then wherever you read those particular emails, that's where the questions would go. So another option would be to send a text message. So this is assuming that you have people's cell phone numbers, and you have to configure that so that in your particular roster of contacts, they would know what field is the cell phone number, and then you could text people. This is not very often used from what I understand from talking to people around campus. You could also share it out through social media if you wanted to, and it gives you the options of the various places where you can share it. If you were in a session, so let's say you're conducting a workshop, and right at the end of the session, you wanted people to do the evaluation while they're sitting there in captive, you can generate a QR code that you could copy and paste into your slides, and people can use their smartphones to put that in their camera and get the link to go directly to the survey. You could also download the QR code and add it to a flyer, or however you want to distribute the QR code. Then it will take them directly to the survey without you needing to send emails at all.
There's another question that says, is sending the survey via text compliant with HIPAA regulations?
Yes. So not only will the emails automatically be accessible, but everything is secure here, and Qualtrics has taken FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act and HIPAA into account so that you know that this information is kept confidential. And again, depending upon how you're conducting a research project or distributing a link to a form, you would have to indicate whether it's going to be collected anonymously, which means there isn't any identifying information that's saved, or if it's confidential, which means that you can see who responded, but that's not public information. It's saved in the secure server behind Qualtrics, and that when you download data, you're downloading it into a secure area. I think going back to the REDCap question, I think REDCap, that security of data is front and center, and that's a good, if you're very concerned about people knowing that your data is secure, REDCap is a good option. The data is still secure with Qualtrics, but it's just not, as obvious that it is secure. So I'll show you the library. So every person who has a Qualtrics account has their own library. And within your library, you can save emails. So you can see that I have 2 different email invites in my inbox, so that when I'm creating an email invite, I can just select one of these emails from my library, and I'm not starting from scratch. I simply need to edit it. There are questions that are in the Qualtrics question library that are publicly available. And so you can get those question sets and import them into your survey. And that's an easier way for you to, so for example, demographics, if you weren't sure what you wanted to include, you can get these from the library, have them go automatically into your survey, and then pick and choose, edit as you need to.
There is another question.
Mhm.
Can the person making the survey send the results to another person without the survey creator receiving a copy of the results? For example, a medical assistant creating the survey that sends a report to a physician and not the assistant.
No, unfortunately. Whoever creates the survey automatically has access to the results. Now, you can have those reports shared directly with, for example, the physician or the PI, so that both the PI and the survey creator could see them, but there's no way to prevent the survey creator from seeing those results. So I'm going to go back to this hamburger menu at the top, and library was a choice. Directories is a choice, and this is where you would put your contact information. And so you can see that I have an existing contact list, and I'm going to pull that up and show you what that looks like. This information is not confidential, so I can share that. Or you could create a new respondent list, and so you would simply name it new list, confirm, and you can either upload a file of contacts from Excel, and you have to do that if you have more than 200 contacts, or you could simply enter your contacts here manually if you didn't have that many. So let me go back to my list. And then just opening this up, you can see that here's the list of people who are in this particular project who are being asked to respond. So the list really is great, because if you have an ongoing project and you're going to be sending different surveys over time to the same group of people, it's good to build that list so that then it's easy. You can just reference that list with every survey that you need to send out. It also allows you to pick segments of your pool, so that if you didn't want to send your survey to everyone, then it would help you divide up your contacts easily to send to segments of your population. And that's one of the more advanced things of Qualtrics we won't talk about today. So in order to look at the reports and the results, I'm going to navigate using the hamburger menu at the top back to my home page because I don't have any data in the test we just made to show you what results would look like. So I'm going to scroll down to this micro-credential survey where there is data. So it automatically opens to the survey editor. And at any time, if you had a survey in the field and you needed to make edits, you can. But it does give you a warning that at this point, your data is going to be different if you've updated questions. To get to my data, I can click on the Data and Analysis tab. And it will take a minute. And so from here, you can export or import data. So if you want to export the raw data, you would click on Export. And it allows you to select at the top what type of a file you want to export as. And if you don't want to download all fields, you would just unclick that and you could learn more to find out what fields you would want to export. And the values or labels, this is where you get the numeric value, so a 1 or a 2 instead of a yes or a no. Or you can export the actual labels, yes or no, and then simply click download and your data will be downloaded. Now I'm going to cancel this. And you can also see that your data comes up as a table here, but it's not very useful. It's hard to navigate through it and really process how people have responded. So from this screen, typically I only I use this particular screen to export data rather than looking at it on the screen. If you want to, that very rough report of just the data dump of results, you would click on results. And what it will do is for each item, it will give you a histogram or a bar chart to let you know, just by looking at this, what people responded for each of the options in the item. But it also will give you a little table that tells you the percentage of people who selected each item. And then it puts that into account. So you can see this was a small survey. There were only 5 respondents. So it lets me know that one person selected responsible research, and that was 20% of my pool. It makes a lot more sense if you have a bigger survey and your response rates would be higher and you would see real numbers here that make sense. So from here, you can select questions and you can get the data in different formats for those questions. So now it's just showing me the first question and it's a bar chart or a histogram. I could see that in tabular format. And it still gives me that bar chart. So you can just navigate through here and select which questions you want to see here and how you want to see them. But if you just want all of it to be put out as a raw data dump, you would simply click on the export dashboard view. And what that does is it gives you all of these charts and tables. And again, with your open-ended items, it simply just lists them all in the order that people responded. So no analysis, no grouping, no alphabetizing. It's just there as a dump. So that can be useful if people ask you, well, I just want to see overall how many people responded and what did they say. Then, okay, this report might be useful for that. You can build a customized report here that allows you to select, what size you want this to be, the orientation. You would get, a new report, you would name it. And this, it's a little more complex. It allows you to pull in the fields you actually want to see in the report. And it also lets you type in, like a title and so on, so that you can actually format the data that gets output. Now, in my experience, most people who are using this for research would simply come to the data and analysis tab and export the data because they're going to be using it in another tool. So, the customized reports I don't really use because that's not how I'm sharing data with people. And results is just a quick and dirty data dump in a pretty format that if someone really just wants to see all the data, that's how you can pull it out in a digestible way. So those things are all the basics of Qualtrics. I'll stop here. We're almost out of time, and I apologize. I don't have much more to talk about, but I'll stop here for questions if anyone has any.
One says, is there another online resources for training, either through CATT or Qualtrics?
In Qualtrics, you can go to their website and they do have training materials so that you can really get down into the details with their tutorials. I don't know that if the research office is providing any training internally, but I know Qualtrics does have some very good training materials online. They used to advertise those right on your homepage, but I don't know that they do anymore simply because they have changed things so much. So they do have this XM Basecamp where you can take some courses. But again, there are YouTube videos out there that they put out that are just quick snippets of a particular issue you might want to get more information about.
One says, do you have examples of reports that are generated with graphics, such as graphs, etc.?
I can share something with you, Marshall, after the fact. Unfortunately, with our move into the central Qualtrics, a lot of my existing surveys I didn't need, so I didn't keep them. So I don't have those reports, but I can find something that we've prepared that I can share.
If you could share those with me, and then someone earlier asked if you wouldn't mind sharing your slide deck.
Oh, sure.
I could send it in a PDF to the attendees this afternoon.
Sure, I will do that.
And then we had another question. If UB has a collaboration with another institution, is there a mechanism where the other institution can use the Qualtrics survey tools as part of their collaboration?
Well, as long as the UB person is showing up as the owner of the survey, you can share privileges with outside people. You would have to make it public but hidden, which means that you would have a link that you could provide to those external collaborators where they could come in and have access to everything. It's not like you would be putting the link on a web page for anybody to come to. So it's, even though it says public, it's a link that you would share to the people that you want to have it, if that makes sense. Nobody's going to search to find access to your survey who's not involved in the project.
Does anyone else have a question? I don't see any hand raised, and I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Okay, well, this was a quick and dirty just overview of the tool. As I said, it's easy to get started with because the interface is easy to navigate. There are some advanced features. We did not look at all the question types. There are many more in there that I listed before that we didn't look at examples of. So when you log in and start creating your survey, you can see all of the question types available and you can experiment with those. You can add routing and skip patterns. So if you want people who answer in a specific way on one question to be directed to a set of questions, and people who answered in a different way to not see those questions, you can program that in so that when they give the right response, those other questions will pop up for them. We saw where you could set up a segment of your pool, and that's what I mean by panel selection. So you might have one big list of people in your study or people in your population, but you only want to send the survey to a smaller segment of that population. It allows you to do that. And then, as I noted, custom reports are available. And so the trainings that Qualtrics puts online or the videos will go into this in a little bit more detail so that you can explore it, but also you can find additional resources should you want to add more advanced features to your survey design and distribution. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Maybe. Can't find my Zoom window, so I apologize. There we go.
You stopped it. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So Dr. Carroll, thank you so much for your time today. And then once I receive the slide deck, I'll send it out to all of the attendees. And then this will be posted onto our YouTube channel within the next coming week or so. So thank you everyone for participating. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.